only a nightmare. It's just in my head. It's only a nightmare. It's just in my head.
The Star One from EPZ is another IEM that's had the hype train rolling during 2024. If you're a user that likes your female vocals, or perhaps you're a stagist or a live streamer, then keep watching because this might have a special place in your collection. It comes in two different colour schemes. You've got the black, the Broken Night Star, which I'm reviewing here, and the Dayun Star in white. Both shells look really attractive, although typically, having seen the white one in the flesh now, I've got a little bit of buyer's remorse. It's a single DD, high impedance, low distortion IEM that is retailing around £57, although I've seen it as low as £51 on AliExpress with a voucher code. They've used a specific 10mm liquid crystal dynamic driver, giving an impedance of 64 ohms and a sensitivity of 112 dB. This enables them to extend the bass shelf and also bring forward those upper mids, accentuating bass guitars and female vocals, for example, with minimal distortion across the full frequency range. According to EPZ, less than 1%. In terms of an unboxing experience, it's definitely not as flashy as some of their previous releases, like the G10 and the Q5, and you're stripped of accessories compared to those releases as well. You do get a little drawstring Tipsy X EPZ carry pouch. The cable is the usual oxygen-free copper silver plated affair. It's much thinner than the cable that comes with the Q5, as you can see here, for example. It's available in two lengths, either 1.2 meters, the standard, or 2 meters if you're planning to use this in a stage environment. And at the ear hook end, it terminates to 2-pin QDC, which you'll either like or not like. I'm guessing probably the latter. The ear hooks are perfectly fine though, not too tight and not too loose. The Star One has actually a really attractive design, although it's not especially imaginative. If previously you've owned or you've tried the Tipsy Tromso, then everything bar the 2-pin connector is going to look really familiar. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think the Tromso was an equally attractive looking IEM, but I think the Star One actually isolates even better, despite the fact that the design is pretty much identical. Work that one out. The gorgeous faceplates on the 3D printed resin shells are supposedly featuring designs from Weiji Art Museum, although I'm not entirely sure that's a real place. Either way, they look pretty spectacular and contrast well with the EPZ and Tipsy logos. Whilst the finish is very good, it does feel like a sub $100 set. And whilst everything, the shape, the nozzles, the tuning holes, is borrowed from the Tromso, as I said previously, I suspect EPZ were the ones who made those shells for Tipsy, so we won't hold that against them. EPZ claim the design isolates up to 26 dB of external noise, and I could definitely see that being the case. They're quite deep insertion IEM at 26mm. That's over 5mm deeper than the G10 and the Q5, and it's about the same as the ICO OH300. Now, they aren't quite as bulky as the OH300, as you can see, but their dimensions mean that they feel a little odd, in my ears at least, as they're not filling that gap around your anti-helix and your conker, but they do at least feel pretty comfortable. As I said in the intro, this is a set which is positioned towards live streamers and stagists, so the characteristics of the Star One will probably be slightly different to those releases which are more targeted at general purpose and casual listening. There's 3 particular characteristics I was expecting: a slightly higher bass shelf, an emphasis on vocals, and slightly rolled off trebles, and that is exactly what EPZ have delivered. When we look at the graph, we see a frequency response that has stayed fairly true to Harman here. We're slightly above target from 40 Hz to 400 Hz. You would expect that would add a little bit of warmth. Also in the presence region between 2 and 3K. We've got a slightly sharper lift than we've seen on some of their previous releases. On the G10 and the Q5 here, we can see that that point of emphasis is quite a bit later. But the sharp rise from a point of recession means that the vocals sit a little bit further back, but still have quite a bit of sweetness. The bass isn't particularly textured, but it's controlled and it balances well with those elevated upper mids. There's no masking, and whilst the mids are recessed, they are still reasonably musical with a nice natural timbre. The treble extension as well is very carefully controlled. You've got plenty of air to the sound, but there's no splashiness or coarseness to percussion. So if you're treble sensitive, this is definitely going to play into your favour. Female vocals on this set are a particular highlight. They're sweet, sparkly and airy, but they're not too much in your face. The sweet spot is when you pair female vocals with acoustic tracks. Whether it's Amy Winehouse, Billie Eilish or Alicia Keys, this is where the Star One definitely comes into its own. The Star One has an expansive soundstage, good technicalities and a natural tone and timbre. It combines that bigger V-shape which delivers the right sound for stagists with EPZ's adherence to Harman and gives you a set that is multifaceted, and it even works well for casual listening, particularly if you're a big fan of female vocals. Within the sub $100 category, the Star One's imaging is top tier. As with any set with these audio characteristics, my preference is to listen on a slightly lower volume. Whilst it doesn't quite hit the point of fatigue, it is a better experience overall. The reviews I've seen so far of the Star One have been quite mixed, and I suspect that is down to the difficulty to drive this IEM. It has an impedance of 64 ohms and a sensitivity of 112 VRMS. Play it through your smartphone, particularly at high volumes, and you will be underwhelmed. However, pairing it with a DAC will definitely bring the Star One to life. With its well-designed shells, great comfort and isolation, and gorgeous faceplates, you could definitely say the Star One lives up to the hype, particularly if you're in that group of consumers who EPZ and TIPSY are targeting. Overall, the sound is really nice. Said if you're into female vocals, if you're a stagist or a live broadcaster, and if you've got a decent source driving these, not just your smartphone, then I don't think you're going to be too disappointed. Inevitably, I'm sure you're going to be asking the question, how do they compare to the EA500 LM? With its interchangeable nozzles, the LM is just a little bit more versatile. Out of the box, I think I prefer the Star One over the silver black nozzle. The LM has better technicalities regardless of which filter that you use, but I feel like the treble and the bass balance better on the Star One. With the gold nozzle, however, you get a warmth, a richness and a bass slam and texture that the Star One simply can't replicate. If vocals are your guilty pleasure, or you're a stagist or a streamer, especially one on a budget, then the Star One has carved out a very special niche just for you. For the rest of you though, the added versatility will probably be worth forking out that extra bit of cash for the LM. I think that the collaboration between EPZ and TIPSY has definitely paid dividends here. The sound is better than TIPSY's previous attempt, the Tromso, and for EPZ, you've got another IEM that works really well in the context for which it was designed, and from a price perspective, it's another that punches way above its weight, sounding very much like a far more expensive IEM. In my opinion, EPZ is probably the most underrated brand in budget IEMs right now. If you like Anjuna beats and melodic techno, check out my review on the Q5. And for a low budget all-rounder that also doubles up as an excellent gaming set with great accessories, forget the 02 and pay the extra few quid for the G10, you won't be disappointed. Do give the video a like if you found it useful, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. For now, it's ReganCipher signing off.